Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Grow Yours podcast, where we talk to coaches and consultants and entrepreneurs in general about what they do in their business, how they help others in their businesses, how they help individuals, and everything in between. Today, I'm thrilled to be joined by Ronald Rodriguez, who is a coach that coaches scientifically. Not something that we typically hear of too often, but I'm super excited to get into it. Ron, welcome to the show.
Thanks so much for having me. Glad to be here.
Oh, also forgot to mention, Ron is from Fluence Pro. That's who you're listening to. So, just to hop into it, so everybody understands a little bit more about you and how you ended up working at Fluence and growing Fluence. Let's talk about your career path and your entrepreneurial journey.
Sure. Yeah. So my career path is a bit storied, probably like everyone else's. I started in operations. I was an operations leadership for several years in various positions, and I found that I had a knack for taking a broken business model or operation and right sizing it, making it profitable again, standing up scalable systems, et cetera. So I'd be poached company by company to do the same for them. And then when I started my graduate work, specifically my Ph.D. and dissertation, I realized I couldn't do 60 hours a week anymore. So I set myself up to where I could just do some consulting on the side while I was working on my doctorate. And I worked with several small businesses and standing up their operating models, and then did consulting for, Amazon, Nike, Capital One, just standing up operational processes and standards. And then went into ed tech, into the executive learning space, where I started a coaching practice for an ed tech company, built it from the ground up to a multi-million dollar product line, took over head of learning, and then realized throughout the course of my work and the research I was doing and the interactions I was having with clients that while the ed tech space and providers are doing a great job of providing amazing coaching and learning, one of the key elements that can get lost in building an ARR SaaS model business is hearing your clients and meeting them where they are, instead of hearing your clients and providing a service that you already have for that repeatability and that SaaS and that build. And so my business partner, Jimmy Beth, she heads up our learning. She was already doing extensive training with various, financial institutions, and she approached me and said, "Hey, do you want to do this together? Like there's a lot here, and it's really great quality, and it's things that we can repeat, and we can market this really well." And I said, "Yes, let's go." So we founded Fluence, and we focus very heavily on meeting our clients where they are. So it's custom training and coaching solutions based on their specific KPIs, organizational goals, etc. We're not looking to provide a service that we offer necessarily. We're looking to provide the service that our clients need, whether it's custom skill training, custom group, team, or individual coaching programs based on their unique needs.
So, would you say in your early career that you felt there was telltale signs you would end up being an entrepreneur, or not at all?
Yes and no. All of the businesses that I worked in and corporations that I worked for were small or startups. So they were either, past maybe Series A or B. Some were just barely past seed fundings. They were either startup to small business, which, as you know, requires that entrepreneurial mindset anyway. You really have to take ownership and accountability for what you're doing and think like a business owner. In fact, in my first role, my first major promotion that I received early in my career, we were essentially the presidents of our divisions. And we were told, this is your business, run it like it's yours. So I've always had that spirit and that mindset. And I've always, even in various leadership positions, always taken the stance of, I have to own this, and I have to collaborate and make sure I'm operating within the guidelines and frameworks by which I need to operate, but I need to take ownership in what I'm doing and drive things forward. And I think that really sets strong entrepreneurs apart from those that may be underperforming or may not be reaching their full potential, is that mindset of ownership and extreme ownership and accountability. No one's coming. It's all you. So you have to take that ownership.
I think that's huge. And I think that might be one of the main reasons why you are a coach now. Because the ability to recognize that taking ownership in your career is the only way to excel is something that a lot of corporate workers probably don't understand, because they're like, oh, this isn't my business, it's just a job. And they just do as they're supposed to do and then they go home. But those who take ownership are the ones who really drive a business forward. So I'm sure if you push that mentality onto people, well, not necessarily push it, but introduce that mentality to people, it creates a significant difference in the workplace.
Yeah, I think in coaching, you ask any coach, and even the coaches that are in our community, that they all have one common thread, and that they really help and love helping people reach their full potential, whether that's clarity through goals or clarity through action, or just really helping them find their center and building from that. And today, what we're seeing in our clients and in all their research and in our experiences, it's not necessarily that employees don't know how to take ownership. Oftentimes, things are so ambiguous and changing so rapidly that they're not sure what step to take first in achieving that ownership. And so in coaching, it's really about helping them understand what that next step could look like, cut through the noise and the ambiguity, and get really clear and focused on what are your goals? What does ownership look like to you and within the context of your organization? What's expected of you? And how do we go about achieving that?
So you said a little bit earlier that you're always customizing your coaching to what the client needs. Do you
Mhm.
feel like that taking ownership is something that clients always need?
Always.
Mm-hmm.
And what we're actually seeing in the programs we're designing, it's really along three key factors. One, it's performance. And that has various shades of outcomes for each client that we serve, right? But we really are in a performance crisis today. Productivity is increasing. We're finding new and more efficient ways of doing things and completing outputs. But the true performance and the engagement and the ability to learn and adapt and evolve is decreasing. And so it all primarily centers around performance. The second is duration. There isn't a one size fits all for coaching. And a lot of coaching providers have set program structures and guidelines that they offer and that they build learning programs around. We have 3 months, 6 month, 9 month, 12 month, eight, whatever you need, we will design that program around you. The way that we've built our systems, our technology, our communications, is that there's a lot of adaptability in what the client needs. So there's a lot of variability in the leaders that we're coaching. They no longer have to just say, well, I think a year is right, or yeah, 6 month maybe feels right. Let's work with you to determine what's the right program for your leaders. And then third, it really focuses on manager involvement and stakeholder involvement. We spend a lot of time talking to our participant stakeholders and we survey their managers. We spend time with their program managers throughout the coaching engagement to not only gain their feedback and perspective on the coaching, but understanding what's next from the context of what's happening around them. It's no longer effective to just coach in a linear direction. So we're getting feedback from stakeholders, learning managers, their managers on how is this landing in the field and in the work that they're doing, and how can we make some incremental adjustments to ensure that they're reaching their objectives and targets.
You say you're staying connected with their managers and stakeholders. Is that something that's like ongoing throughout the entire coaching process, or is that something you
It
do
is.
more in the beginning to get the details that you need and then execute based on that?
Yeah, it's all of the above.
Oh,
So before we launch a coaching program, we hear from the learning and development partner that we're working with, and hopefully some of their managers of the participants to understand what are the ultimate goals of this program. What do you want your leaders to achieve coming out of it? What do we need to work toward? But then throughout the coaching engagement, we have checkpoints with the managers. So we'll survey them at the midpoint of the coaching engagement and toward the end of the coaching engagement. But we also encourage and schedule quarterly check-ins with what we call a tripartite meeting between the coach, the participant, and their manager for real time feedback, real time involvement, letting the manager know how the experience is going, letting the participant share their learning and celebrate all the success they've had in coaching, but then also very critically hearing from the manager on, well, here's how this is landing, here's what we're seeing and observing, and just based on our objectives and where we're going as a company and a team, here's what I'd like to see them focus on next. It's a really rewarding experience for all three involved because the coach gets a full understanding of the context. The participant has really clear goals in mind lined up for the remainder of the engagement until we meet with them next. And the manager has that confidence and feels heard and feels involved in the development of their participant. It's crucial.
Has there ever been a situation where the managers have felt you guys are not aligned with them, but aligned with the other two parties that you just mentioned, and it's become an issue? Or is that never really the case?
It hasn't been something that we come across too often, as long, and I think the reason for that is we do spend time up front partnering with the L&D professionals and the managers because L&D professionals, they're hearing what's going on from the field before they even approach an L&D company to provide coaching. They've done internal engagement surveys, they're partnering with their HRBPs are communicating with them. So most often, they have the context and the resource already. They know what's being shared by the managers with them to design the program. But also during the design of a coaching program, we do actively encourage, hey, let's get the managers involved. Let's include them in a program kickoff to make sure that we understand and hear their perspective. Not because the L&D leader doesn't know, but also think about how rapidly things change. In the past 2 weeks, how many things in your business have changed or evolving or shifting,
I
right?
can't even keep track sometimes, it feels like.
Exactly. Exactly. So it's crucial to get it up front. And as long as you've got that manager involvement, or at least through proxy, what's going on with the participants, what they need, where their skill gaps are lacking, what behaviors they need, as long as you've got that up front, you're able to mitigate that sort of dissonance that the manager might feel throughout the process.
So it seems like you guys got this pretty down packed. And do you think that's because you have such a high level understanding? Well, at least the communication part. Like you have
Mhm.
because you have such a high level understanding in neuroscience, that's part of the reason why you're able to excel in getting everyone together and on the same page.
I think it's twofold. Certainly, my background, so my expertise is in leadership behavior. So I've always studied and tried to deeply understand how we behave and interact in the workplace. So there's the experiential and scientific factor, and of course, combine it with the applied neuroscience that I really focus on. I do deeply understand human behavior, how the brain works, how our brain interacts with ourselves, and how it engages during different scenarios and aspects of our lives and our work. That certainly helps. But I think it's also experience. My partners and I, we've been in this field for over a decade. We're coaches. We've done this. We know what a successful coaching and training program looks like. We've experienced thousands of coaching hours, thousands of coachings and training sessions. We have done the research and the homework and brought our collective intelligence together in partnership with our amazing coaches in our community who are highly seasoned coaches, experienced leadership professionals in various fields. We listen and we bring them into the conversation. And through all of that, we're able to devise really compelling coaching experience for participants and really compelling outcomes for our clients just through experience, through our knowledge of science, and just through our ability to bring it to life in a real way by listening and providing what they need in real time. So it's both.
Um, you said before, you mentioned, well, you asked me how many different things are changing in your business in the last 2 weeks, and obviously a ton. And
Mhm.
a lot of people really struggle with that change. I feel like it's something that's not easy for everyone. For me, I feel like it's a little bit
Hmm.
easier, maybe because I'm younger and like I don't know, because you get like realistically, most managers or higher level position people are a little bit older, so they're more stuck in their ways, or they know one thing one way and this is the way they operate. I'm just spitballing ideas, but what's really the science behind the struggle some leaders have with change?
Yeah. Well, it's different for everyone. I will say you mentioned you're younger, and so you feel like you are able to respond better to change. The reality is, as we age, our neuroplasticity tends to decline. So our ability to learn and to attach to new concepts and to attach to new experiences. And also, I think over time we build armor. That's the beauty of neurocoaching and neuroscience is the secret to real change is being honest with yourself and breaking through all the armor that you've built in your emotional system and your thought process to protect you from that. And in neurocoaching, we're able to break through that with you and get to really deeper, lasting change. Understand that armor, break through that armor, and associate new memories and experiences with change that help remotivate you. So some of it is just a function of experience and age. Others is even those sort of younger generation of leaders and older generation of leaders, they all have pretty much the same struggle, the rapid pace of change. It's not change, it's the velocity in which things are changing and the ambiguity by which businesses are responding to that change because it's happening so rapidly. It's no one's fault. It's just how things are evolving in the business world today. And so from a neuroscientific perspective, when you become overwhelmed, and even from a behavioral perspective, when we become overwhelmed, it gets really challenging to determine, okay, what's next? It's even more challenging to even ascertain what's happening to you. We spend a lot of time in coaching and training just getting underneath what's currently happening, what they're currently feeling and experiencing. And the moment they're able to name what is happening to them, that's when we can start to build new neural pathways and connections toward new experiences that are positive.
So, is there a way to train your brain to keep that? I don't even know how to phrase this properly in the scientific terms, but to make sure that your neuroplasticity stays active? I don't know what the term would be.
Mhm. So I would say there's two things that you can do to, I wouldn't say train your brain, but to help understand how your brain interacts and then how to leverage that moving forward. The first, to increase your neuroplasticity and ability to learn, there's all kinds of apps out there that, the brain exercises, logic
Those
exercises.
work?
Uh, they really do. But one trick, actually, to keep yourself sharp, I'm not as young as you are. So, one thing that, just one silly example is when I learn how to drive somewhere, I'll use the navigation system once to get there, and I will challenge myself to remember how to get there and never use it again.
I never do
To just,
that. I use the navigation every time, and I have
yeah,
no idea where I am when I'm driving.
yeah. It challenges you to stay focused on what you're doing and stay present in that moment. And it's just a great learning exercise of just keeping your brain sharp. It's giving yourself small practice exercises to learn something, whether it's a new recipe, a new way to peel an orange, you know, going somewhere where you're not using the nav system and just recalling by memory, those little exercises that you can do to think and learn something new, just even in its smallest of measurement every single day. Find a new way to organize your email inbox. Those little things to keep your brain active and keep it learning something new.
I like to play the Wordle every day. I don't know if that helps.
That's fantastic. Absolutely. Yes, absolutely. Anything that's engaging your thought process, because as you've probably uncovered, our brain loves to go on autopilot. So our prefrontal cortex is horrible at multitasking, but we make it multitask all the time. And what happens is over time, things move to your subconscious as you're faced with so much and you're multitasking so much. And so that's why a lot of times you'll get a great idea in the shower or as you're working out or as you're driving, actually, because it doesn't require a lot of motor sensory skill to do because it's a habit and it's ingrained. And so as you allow yourself a moment, that's why reflection is so important, because what's happening now is due to the rapid pace of change and rapid transformation and everything happening around you, we're kind of on autopilot. we, we set our routines, even for folks that have positions that move them in different directions throughout the day. That still becomes routine to you. You become acclimated to that. So when you challenge yourself to try something different in your routine, just one thing, just pick one thing and adapt to it, then move to the next, you keep yourself fresh, you keep yourself sharp, and you allow your brain and your cerebral cortex to learn new things, experiences new things, and increase your ability to adapt over time. Just little small things you can do.
Yeah, I noticed the autopilot a lot. I know I didn't plan on this getting this deep into the
Yeah,
neuro
yeah.
stuff, but I noticed, so every day at dinner, me and my girlfriend sit down, and the first thing we go over is our day, right?
Hmm.
She's a teacher, and obviously I'm an entrepreneur, right? She has such good recall of every single moment in her day because I feel
Hmm.
like she has to be so much more on her toes and like super aware of what the kids are doing, what she's doing, whose
Yeah.
behavior is affecting the other behaviors in the room, versus me where I'm doing a lot of like repetitive tasks. I'm getting on a lot of calls which are obviously different person to person, but because I work in this niche and I do marketing in my business, I'm doing a lot of repeat conversations tailored to
Hmm.
the specific person. And then she's like, "All right, now you go with your day." And I'm like, "Well, damn, I don't know." Like I did a lot
Hmm.
today. I know I did, but I can't pull it all back the way she can. And I'll like look at my calendar, and then one thing on my calendar will spark the entire day, and then
Hmm.
I could have the conversation about it. But I don't know. I don't want to say like my day is mundane, but I feel like I just hit autopilot a lot harder than she does because of the activity that I'm doing.
Yeah. I would also probably venture to guess that you have a high volume day.
Yes.
And as an entrepreneur, it's really difficult to find times to break and reflect. And so it probably feels it's almost as if your brain, you can't even recall because it's just, you can't draw one thing. Whereas your girlfriend has to be very focused, very engaged, very intentional in all of her work throughout every minute of the day.
Yes.
So think of how much focus that
A
requires,
lot.
right?
A lot.
Both high volume, right? But different type of volume. And so that's why, if you find yourself having that difficulty in recalling, I experience that a lot too, even someone that knows this. And when I'm asked how was your day and I can't really answer, it reminds me two things. One, I probably should take a moment to reflect. Just by yourself, 5 or 10 minutes, letting your mind wander, not having a set agenda, just to kind of cool down your prefrontal cortex a little bit. It's processing a lot. And two, I should probably switch something up, whether it's take a meeting outside or use a different, instead of Google Docs, use Microsoft Word. Just one little shift to like break my pattern from the day. It really engages your neurons in a real way. And it helps kind of recycle what's happening in your brain because it's, oh, this is something new. I need to focus on it.
But that doesn't drive you like that. You just said use Word instead of Google Docs, and I was like triggered. I was like,
Horrible
yeah.
example, but it is one example.
Okay. All right. Yeah. Because like if I did something like that, I would be like, all right, then my documents would be in a different place, and the next time
Yeah.
I need to recall, like, I get it was just an example, but
Have lunch at a different time than
okay.
you normally would. Something like that. Just one small little change to where it doesn't feel overwhelming and you're not anxious about it, but something you're looking forward to.
Hmm.
Hey, that'll be interesting to try.
Yeah.
Let's try that out.
Something I like to do is I'll switch. Like I have a dog, and I'll switch up the route that I take him on a walk on.
Mm-hmm.
But now I'm starting to like repeat the same like five routes, so it's like even that's becoming routine. But I try to switch up what day. Like I don't plan what day we take what route. It's kind of just like I step out the door and it's like, all right, let's see where we go.
That's a good example. You could even, to challenge yourself, build like a little calendar of like what route you can label those routes. So, like on Tuesday, we're going to do route 3,
Hmm.
but then the following week on Tuesday, do route 6 or
Okay.
4. Just an easy little switch up like that.
And this kind of transitions into what I want to talk about next, and that's like growth when you're
Hmm.
coaching for growth, or when you're meeting a younger entrepreneur or an entrepreneur who's early on, they tend to
Mhm.
get stuck in that startup mode and can't scale up. And do you think a lot of that is because of the fact that they get so used to getting in this repetitive, like I have to do everything all the time routine?
That could be part of it. And I think part of it is also, as entrepreneurs, our pressure is always pipeline,
Hmm.
right? It's always drive sales, drive revenue, but also drive sustainable, cost effective, margin friendly systems and processes, right? And so when you become that focused on it, it's hard to break that because that's your priority. Those are your priorities from inception. And so as they think about scaling further, for a lot of entrepreneurs, that's really scary to think about scale because when they think of scale, they think of, sure, it'll be a lot more rapid, but it's a lot more investment, a lot more time involvement to get it set up. And you don't know what's going to happen out of it, right? It's hard to think through how is this going to affect my customers, how will this affect the business, et cetera. So I think a little bit of it is kind of being stuck in the routine, and that's where we get comfortable. But adopting an entrepreneurial mindset for many entrepreneurs and CEOs and C-suite leaders I've coached is really about having that voracious need to learn, voracious need to experiment. That's the big one. And voracious need to continue to find new and better ways of doing things. And it's that experimentation that I think can really help. Not necessarily building an experiment that says we're going to completely overhaul our pipeline building structure, right? Experimenting on trying different things that are more efficient and effective in a very controlled way. Set a timeline, set a milestone, make it low risk at first. That way, it builds your risk appetite and you're able to experiment with it in real time and gain some learning from it in real time. Setting up small, controlled, low risk experiments towards scale is a highly effective way of being able to eventually get to scale, but also building your tolerance for risk and building your tolerance for scale. And it gets you out of that autopilot mode.
How do you recommend shifting your mindset to build those tolerances?
Well, I think it starts with first understanding where your current mindset is, because a lot of entrepreneurs, they have that ingrained in them. It takes a really special mindset in person to start and form a business from the ground up. It really does. And so I think some of that mindset is already there, but I think it's understanding that it is there, number one. Number two, understanding what's getting in the way. Are you really stuck in a holding pattern or are you surviving? Is survival the answer right now until you scale? Sometimes that is the answer too. But then I think three, if an entrepreneur is kind of stuck, if they're like, well, I do have that mindset, I do have that scale mindset, I do have that experimental mindset, I just don't know where to start, which does happen a lot with all of us, is think about what your customers are currently missing. And if you don't know, ask. What is one pain point that you can solve right now for your customers that you know about, that you've thought about, you've heard about, that you can start on right now? One step, one small thing, whether that's send out a survey to see what they say, whether that's have conversations, whether that's let's take the next 60 days to revamp our email communications, something along those lines. But as long as you start in the face and in service of your customers and in their vision of what innovation is, you're almost always going to learn everything you need to know about the rest of it. But you're also going to build better relationships and gain that better confidence. Because let's face it, a lot of it isn't mindset. A lot of it is also what is required, which is our customers, serving our customers, providing what they need, staying ahead of the curve. Start there. Always start outside in from your customers.
So you're an entrepreneur and you have a business. How did
Hmm.
you start to scale Fluence Pro? What tactics did you use? What were those one things that you were doing
Yeah.
to really get going?
So my partners and I all sat down and said, as we were starting to gain some traction, We said we all know that as adults, we learn by doing and we're experiential. And so we wanted to build systems that were scalable. Now, that's where I do want to caution on that word scale. You cannot build a scalable operation. There's no such thing. You build an operation, then you scale it. That's just definition of scale. And I think a lot of organizations really focus on we need to build a scalable process or a scalable operation. By definition, that's difficult to do if you think about the word scale. So we decided we were going to build the most nimble, adaptable, and flexible processes possible to not only serve our clients, but market to our clients, serve our participants, make sure that we were giving the best experiences possible. But then while we were deploying them, we were going to learn from them in real time. We have chronic learning systems set up to where we're either meeting about it, we're getting data and feedback about it. And because we didn't focus so much on investing a ton of energy in scalable systems, but more adaptable and malleable systems, we're able to scale and grow in real time. We're actually doing it now with some of how we design and train. We learned that a lot of our content is outstanding. We deliver high quality training skill content, but the process of getting there is challenging. There's a lot of work that goes into it. And so the process that we set up initially was we'll have meetings with the clients. We have our internal, like we'll use our Notion to organize our projects, but we don't have a set template and we haven't automated anything yet. So our CLO and I just met earlier and we stood up several more processes that we've learned over the past series of trainings that we did to make it even more scalable for the upcoming trainings we have in the next quarter. So we literally just added more scale to our design process by not focusing so much on what's the most scalable it doesn't work that way. We set up an adaptable, malleable, and easily learnable system that we can build upon and iterate in real time.
Interesting. How do you know when you've put together a system that is malleable and is some like because that's pretty arbitrary, no? It's like
Sure.
I could say the system I have is malleable right now until it gets to the point where it snaps. And then it's no longer malleable for the scale and level that I'm at. So how do you
Yeah.
determine if something falls in that category?
You're right. It is arbitrary because it depends on the service you're offering, the business that you're running. So that's going to look different for each person. But a good litmus test, if you know you have a system and a flow and an operations that's malleable and easily adjusted, is if you're able to use it and repeat it, but you're not stuck to it. You have options around it. So that way you can pivot and move with your clients. Our whole business model operates around being hyper flexible and responsive to our clients. One size does not fit all in L&D. Your size fits you in coaching and training. And so we realized we had to be really flexible and cost effective in how we serve our clients. So our litmus test was giving the training. Are we reaching the deadlines that we're committing to with our clients while still providing great quality and still having options in case dates move or participants shuffle around or a topic changes? Do we have enough flexibility to be able to adjust in that in real time? That's a good litmus of is this malleable enough to change, pivot on the fly if you need to, but then are you also going to learn something out of it? So it's sort of a not making perfect the enemy of good. Is it good enough to serve your clients well, but can it be improved? Do you know it can be improved? If the answer is yes, great. You have a malleable system that you can scale over time in response to your clients.
And so how have you been able to find people to put into this system? How have you been able to grow that way?
Do you mean by like headcount and people working the system or
No, no, no.
clients?
So yeah, clients. So like
Oh,
you have the system in place. Now the system has to apply to acquiring someone
that's right.
or apply to helping someone. So how have you been because this is all like pretty complex. So it's a very complex
Mhm.
offering that you have. So how have you been able to express to people exactly what you do and how you help them?
I think the process and the offering can be complex, but the messaging and what it offers is very simple.
Mm.
Um, we started our growth just based on our reputations and our connections that we had in the industry, and we've been really fortunate to have built amazing relationships with some of the most incredible leadership development executives around the planet. Just these amazing people, and we're so fortunate to work with them. And we're very grateful. So that was kind of step one. But our message is really clear. We provide customized skill training and coaching to excel at your business goals. That's it. Whatever that is. If you need a full day workshop on decision making, or you need a 13-month coaching program for your hypo successors that will be taking over your finance department, we've got you covered. It's real simple. And we have the expertise to help them solution what that looks like. We don't expect our clients to know everything. We don't expect our clients to have all the answers. We only ask that they work with us and they allow us to solution with them on what that might look like. And so we've built that trust and that ability to work with our clients to say, well, based on what you've shared, this is what we recommend and what you need. So the process, yes, is really complicated, but it's getting simpler day by day because we're learning and we've built systems that are very adaptable on purpose. We spend a lot of time obsessing about our client and our participant experiences. From the time they touch our platform, what are they going to experience? What is it going to look like? How flexible is it in case we get a different program? How do we collect our data? What does that look like? We spent most of our time on our client and participant systems. And because of that, we have a lot of adaptability built in, and we're learning in real time and can easily adjust it as needed.
Okay. On that note, I think that's a great way for us to end it off. So, where can people find you and Fluence Pro?
Yeah. So please go to www.fluencepro.com, or you can follow us on LinkedIn at Fluence on LinkedIn. Follow our business page. Please follow me. We're constantly posting leadership insights, research. We have a monthly webinar series now where we're actually giving you helpful tips and insights of how to apply science-backed training and coaching resources into your workforce and how you might partner with us. We have all kinds of stuff going on over here to help you. So please follow us, connect with us.
All right. Awesome. Ron, thank you so much for coming on the show. That was super in depth. I never thought I would get this much into the brain ever on one of these podcasts, but I really did enjoy it, and I hope that everybody listening got a ton of value. And until next time, everyone, this has been the Grow Yours podcast, and we'll see you.
Thank you so much.